Well, I should say that I was close to all of my grandmothers, and I knew my great-grandmother very well. Dorothea Louise Selke was my mother's grandmother on her mother's side. She came from Germany, East Germany, when she was about 5. She came to stay and live with her married sister here in the Sheboygan area, and she scrubbed floors and worked hard. Her children taught her how to read. She was a Christian, and we were always aware that she had read through the Bible. She had a treadle sewing machine, and she made huge braided rugs out of all the used pants of all the men in the family. It wasn't until I tried to make a braided rug I realized how involved that was. She made her own currant jam, and she grew the currants in her little backyard, and she had a renter upstairs, and that paid her bills. She had my grandmother Hildegard on the first day of summer 1900. My mother's mother owned and ran the Mayflower Moving and Warehouse in Sheboygan, and in I think her late 70s or 80s she was named Woman of the Year by the Wisconsin Truckers. Her husband died when my mother was first year of college or second year, and that was a great loss. He was a great man and owned 3 moving companies in Sheboygan and the warehouse. My grandmother worked until she was, I think, in her 80s. She was very intelligent. She had an 8th grade education. She could write beautiful script, and when she broke her right wrist, she could write beautifully with her left hand. She just got the job done. My dad's mother was sort of one of a kind. Her name was Pauline Traas. That was her American name. She was born in the 1800s and came from Holland, from Goes, G-O-E-S. It was the last part of the Netherlands where they wore their traditional costume. And she was a Zeelander. She came from a large family of 18 children or so. I'm not sure how many survived, but her father sold vegetables. She was Lena, and then she became Pauline. So I was named after her American name, and then they switched it on the birth certificate, so it was Anne Pauline, and everyone was happy. But she came when she was about 18 or 19 from the Netherlands on a big ship, and they weren't wealthy, so she was probably in the bowels of that big ship where people even died. She didn't understand English. She wasn't bilingual yet. Her fiancé, he had come to the Sheboygan area first, bought a little farm, got set up, and when he was ready, he sent for his bride. And she came to him. Sort of reminds me of the many mansions Christ has for us. Behold, I go to prepare a place for you. And she came to be where he was in Sheboygan on this little farm, labeled like a package with his name and address through Ellis Island. And she had 3 children with him, and then one day he just died. And my aunt remembered she would sing songs to the Lord. They would sing while they were working around the house and worship God. And she was always taking in boarders. Eventually, she and her second husband, my dad's father, owned and ran this little hotel, Park Hotel, downtown Sheboygan. 22 rooms and 1 bath. And they were the best $2 rooms in Sheboygan. She was really quite instrumental in her own way in civil rights. We were always, I had such respect for her during those sundown days. She had been the one place other than the Y where black people could stay. She had the early predecessor of the Harlem Globetrotters would stay there. They'd go all the way to La Crosse and come back. Early Aunt Jemima stayed there and so forth. So she was a very strong and magnanimous and tough, and people would come to her house all the time. There was a constant stream of people who would come to sit around and talk and tell their stories. And when it was a slow day, her brother would come from the country with his wife, Uncle Pete and Tante Lucy, and they'd sit, and every once in a while they'd slip into the Dutch language. Eventually, the city of Sheboygan hired her to run what was, my dad said, the first nursing home in the state, and he helped write the Wisconsin Charter for nursing homes. They had her use the old asylum, which was this enormous building. I would ride my tricycle up and down the hallways, and in the kitchen they had a checkered light and dark linoleum, and I would make little pies in the peanut butter lids, and the cook would be making pies, and there was always a barrel of sauerkraut fermenting on the counter. And I'd help set the table a little bit. Then they'd have a picnic every year, and Dad would make the bratwurst. They'd taken in so many people between the hotel and the boarders before that. When that family got together, there was all these stories out there about the interesting mix of people that they had known and loved and that had intersected their lives in those good and meaningful ways. And I think then when I got into that ministry where we took in all those people, it just seemed like such a natural fit.